Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. Before we jump into our second segment, I remind you guys, go ahead and check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/official MLGSC2. Every piece of content we do here at WCS, all the Rules of Engagement videos, everything we do here at MLG goes up on YouTube within a few hours, and of course, for free 1080p quality. youtube.com/official MLGSC2. If you ever miss our content or just have an extra day, you want to catch up on some of the older stuff. Our next segment is going to be another game between MacSed and TheSTC. Of course, this one is the Game 3, the deciding match between these two players. We're going to take a look at how to use some early aggression using a 1-2 combo, then some PvT unit dynamics, and then talk about the Phoenix Colossi combination. A couple important things to keep in mind if you're either using it or if you're playing against it as a Terran player. So we're jumping to replay at the 4-minute mark. And one thing we're first talking about before I even get into any of those three subjects is basically PvT build orders. And one thing that's important to know about Protoss is you can be much greedier with your openings than you could in Wings of Liberty. I know people already know this, but just a quick rehash. It's very important. Unless you're doing a gateway all-in, if you want to make your build strong in PvT, yeah, you can put a little pressure at the front with a couple early gateway units, see if you can scout your opponent, maybe pick off an SCV or two, there's not enough Marines to defend, you know, and get you good scout information. But notice how of course, it's a 1-gate expansion. He doesn't get a second or third gateway. Unless you're doing insanely, like, some super fast gateway attack and you're going to try to catch your opponent off guard, always get your Forge, your Robo, your Stargate, whatever way you want to attack before adding additional gateways. With the Mothership Core on the field, an ability to Photon Overcharge, its additional attack power, there's no need to get the additional gateways so fast. You can always feel free to whatever tech path you want. Most players opt for Robo to get those observers out. To get that right after you start the Nexus, just make sure you never cut any probe production out. So now going forward, we're going to see his choice of tech as a Stargate. And then interestingly enough, after that Stargate, he's actually going to add 2 more gateways, which means he wants to put on aggression, which means he's hiding, hide a proxy pylon here. This is something that's actually important as Terran. A lot of Terran just grab an SCV and just have it check the sides of the map. Just for proxy pylons, just so you know where they are, you know if there could be aggression coming in, from what angle will come in at. The other important thing, of course, is be ready for an Oracle attack. He was able to scout that Stargate, so he has enough Marines there. It's not going to do too much damage. And then, of course, he's just going to progress up, get Marines, get Stimpack. Very standard stuff as Terran. And, of course, he's sending SCV out to scout, but I would like to see 1 Marine going up to this third base or just checking out the right side. You don't want to send them all because they'll get picked apart by Stalkers. You need most of them back to defend Oracle, but it's nice to have some element of scouting vision. Now, of course, I talked about how adding these additional gateways early on means he wants to put on some type of pressure, and his pressure is going to be Oracle gateway units. And this is where it's important, just like boxing or whatever, you know, it's something that's always better with the combination. So if you want to hit hard somewhere else, you want to distract your opponent elsewhere first, if that's possible, right? So he's going to send the Oracles into the main. When the Marines all come to the main, he's going to really quickly refocus his attack on a natural, using the fact that Oracles are faster than Marines so they can beat back the defenders to this bunker. SCVs come out a little bit too slow, but the main thing is there's only 2 Marines there. So there was very little damage output on the Protoss army while that bunker is being focused down and would take it on very quickly. And now he's doing a whole ton of damage. I mean, yes, he has to because he's cut his own tech and economy slightly to get this many Stalkers at 30. But we can see here he's already been able to kill 10 SCVs. And that wasn't with the Oracles, that's just with the Stalkers there. And a good number of Marines as well. And now we're at a point where we're going to start talking about unit dynamics. Even though the Terran player has Stimpack done now, right? He has Stim finished. If there's no Medivacs, Stalkers can actually do pretty well against Stimpack, especially if you combine it with Time Warp. And the reason why, you can just keep microing back. Every time they Stim, you can even just run straight away, and maybe they can run down 1 or 2 Stalkers. But remember, their entire army loses 1/4 of its life. So you keep coming back, you pick at them, they use Stim, you run away. When their Stim runs off, then you go forward and attack in. So you use a Stim, you just run away. This one Stalker's going to die, but all these units got hurt, right? And now they have to back away again. You can keep doing this, you can trade very efficiently until Medivacs come out. As soon as you see those Medivacs, you got to hightail it. Because you're not going to be cost efficient. Even with, you know, it's 8 gateway units versus only 11 bio units, and a lot of those bio units are Marines, so they count as half, so it's really 8 to like 6 or 7 units. It's still a situation where with Medivac support, you're not going to be efficient, right? Each Marine's only 50 minerals, and with Stim and Medivac support, they're going to be very, very cost efficient against your Stalkers out army. So you just got to get out there as soon as those Medivacs come on the field. Of course, this is up until you know, you get Colossi or Templar. But in this type of gateway aggression situation, you always want to stop the aggression once medevacs come out. So MacSed originally would have been significantly ahead, but after losing these units, now if anything, STC's ahead. If you take a look at things, income tab, MacSed's got a significant worker advantage because of all the SCVs he's killed, 18 SCVs. But he is behind in tech, and of course there's 2 mules to deal with as well. So MacSed still, I mean, he's still actually ahead. You can't really say he's not ahead, but he's not ahead by all that much. It could still go either way. And now, one thing he's going for, he's going to start building air units, right? He's going to build a Void Raid, then actually we're going to see him progress into Phoenix Colossi, because he's going for the Colossi as well. He's getting that support bait. First Colossus should be built. There we go. First Colossus being built right now. And one thing about this, if you're a Terran player, as soon as you can identify, did a cute little fake drop here trying to pull some of the units into the main so you can catch him off guard at the natural. As soon as you can identify your opponent is continuing to get air units, you want to not try to harass them. If you can beat their army, yeah, go ahead and fight them. But if you're not going to have a stronger army than them, you don't want to try to skirmish. And in this case, I mean, actually, he's kind of lucky. Max had messed up the micro, lost at 2 sentries. But in general, if they have the air units, and this is even more true once the Phoenix come out and the Colossi come out, the problem is if you try to pick at him, try to be annoying with drops, the Phoenix gives them the ability to pick off the medevacs, to lift up retreating units, and all of a sudden you're going to be in trouble. So as you can see here, right now, because of being able to fight with the medevac and stim support, so far, STC has been more cost efficient than MacSed. 2,800 to 4,500, that's a difference of 1,700 resources, right? So MacSed has lost 1,700 resources more than his opponent. And that's a good amount of resources, right? 1,700. But going forward here, we can see as these battles commence, if you just take a look at this, every time he tries to poke his opponent, normally you can just stim and kite, stim and kite, stim and kite. But as the Phoenixes come into the battle, every time you do that, your medevacs start being under fire, right? The Phoenix can run for it, he can pick up a Marauder. One medevac might die there. He's still 1,700 head, now a single Marauder dies, right? And he tried to stop the save us, so he lost a few more units. This is going to keep happening over and over again, and as the Phoenix count gets higher and higher and higher, it becomes more and more of a problem. So this can be what decides the game. It was an equal game, but as STC keeps being so aggressive and trying to pick away at the army, he's going to start losing more and more and more because he's fighting against an opponent who has Phoenixes, right? So he goes and he picks his opponent, he retreats, but as he retreats, he loses 1 medevac. As he retreats, he's about to lose another medevac. And now he has to stop and fight against someone who has more units. He's going to lose more Vikings, right? And all this, he's just constantly losing unit after unit after unit. Here goes another Marauder. And all of a sudden, units lost is equal, right? So this is a situation where if you're ever playing against a person with Phoenixes, you never want to try to harass them. If you're stronger, you can kill them in 1 hit, go for it. But Phoenixes are great to punish someone who's being overly aggressive and they're not quite strong enough to be, and they're also good against punishing drops. So now we're in a situation where if you look at the army size, MacSed is significantly ahead of his opponent because, I mean, he's ahead by 1,300, he's ahead by 2,300, right, resources. Really, he should be ahead by 600 resources. The other 1,700 was just because STC was bleeding away units. And being ahead by 600 resources isn't always enough to kill your opponent. Being ahead by 2,300 resources is. And so we can just go ahead and just totally smash the STC by overwhelming numbers of units here. And we can see that just too much Protoss is going to run right over the Terran army and just absolutely solder. And this is a situation where like, wow, that looks very good. I mean, Terran made a mistake, but how did Protoss run him over so easily? So it was a combination of things. One, he got behind for a mistake, but let's look back and see if there's any possible way, if you're a Terran player ever stuck against a Protoss moving at you, the giant force, but you know 2 things, right? Just bring this back up to the point where he's really being attacked. So you know 2 things. One, you know you're behind in army strength, but you also know you're just at his 3rd. He doesn't really have a 3rd base yet. Ideally, this command center would have been built in the main, so you wouldn't have to be obligated to defend it, but either way, if you know your opponent's much stronger than you and you have to defend against this incoming Phoenix class attack rate, the best way to make a semblance of defense, even though you're behind, is you want to set up just like this. So you have your natural, you want to defend a natural. You can't go out and fight him in the open. We saw what happened when you tried that. It didn't work. Now, when you're trying to defend your natural against the overwhelming Protoss army, your first inclination is throw down 5-6 barracks. Or bunkers, excuse me. But what actually happens if you do that, yes, that looks cool and that can defend well, but the big problem that Terran has is that their bio army is very small, right? So even with bunkers, that just means you'll die slower. Your problem is you don't have enough damage output to handle the Colossi, Zealot, Phoenix army. So the best way to defend this is actually to build a lot of missile turrets. If you just build like 5 missile turrets, you build a turret like here, 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 and then one like right here. Oops. Oh, it doesn't like me anymore. Okay, so you just build 4 turrets. Let's say 4. There's going to be 2 things that'll happen. One is missile turrets do insane damage per second. A missile turret does the same damage to any air unit that an Immortal does to an armored unit, right? That's how good they are at damaging your opponent. And against someone who's going Phoenix Colossi, they actually can't even touch missile turrets. Because you just do it this simply. You put the Vikings on top of the turrets, you make sure they focus the Colossi anytime they get near. As the air comes in, then the turrets kill them. So your opponent can't pick away the turrets with just the Colossi, because they might kill 1 or 2 turrets, but they'll lose 1 or 2 Colossi to the Vikings. That's not a good trade. Turrets don't die super quickly to Colossi. If they want to break this, they pretty much just have to A-move and try to overwhelm the turret defense. Then what happens? Yes, their Vikings die. You probably won't even kill the Colossi. But you will have 2 things happen. One is all the air units will die to the turrets. The turrets will die, but all the air units will too. Or at least they'll take serious damage, they'll mostly be dead. And then the second problem that they'll have is that the Colossi will not be shooting your bio. If your bio's nicely set up behind it, the turrets, it won't come under fire from the Colossi, because the Colossi can't move in a turret range, so they'll have to just shoot the turrets first. And so your bio will have about 10 battle seconds to just fight the Zealots. And of course, with Stim, you can kite back, you're going to trade efficiently. Not only that, but the Zealots won't auto-attack the turrets. They'll actually try to go between them to hit the bio, and then all of a sudden they'll be pathed by the turrets as well. So it's like a 3... There's 3 reasons why you want turrets over bunkers. 1, the Zealots will be pathed, whereas bunkers will attack them. Number 2, the turrets do insane damage output. Bunkers don't add to your damage output, they just add to your life. And then number 3, the turrets will add damage output against the most important Protoss units, the air units and the Colossi. So you don't even have to micro them, they'll automatically focus the most important units. So yes, STC is behind. Yes, it's tough. I mean, you can build turrets and MacSed might just back away, take a third and be ahead. But if you're ever in a dire situation against Phoenix Colossi, add in those missile turrets, they're going to save your life. So a quick recap of a couple things. As your Protoss opponent, you just have gateway units. Unless you outnumber your opponent by 2 or 3 times their army supply, retreat when they have those medevacs. You're not going to be efficient as soon as the medevacs hit the field. Then number 2, as a Terran player, don't try to be super aggressive against an opponent who has Phoenix. You're just going to be punished every time you try drop and they block it. It's not really going to work out. If you do a big all-in, that can sometimes work out. A giant time attack can sometimes work out. Trying to be like clever with your aggression, trying to pick at them, is not going to work out because the Phoenix will pick back at you, and you're not going to like that. So wraps up our second segment. We'll take a short break and then move on to a Ghosty user versus Heart match, switching over to ZVT.